address, it may not even be a question. If it's just like a general topic related to generative AI in your role or your company, you can post those in the chat or you can unmute. I'm totally fine going live and ad hoc with the questions. Let me see here, and we will get going.
Mhm.
Um, my name is Chris Daigle. I am one of the instructors here. We collaborated on a course called Fundamentals or Generative AI Fundamentals for Digital Marketing. It's a fantastic, fun course, and it will introduce you to a lot of the tools that we're using. My day job, I guess you'd say, is I'm the CEO of a company called ChiefAIOfficer.com, and we spend all day, every day talking about generative AI in business, primarily in the paradigm of non-technical business users. Our definition of the chief AI officer or that AI expert isn't somebody who needs to know data science or machine learning. Yes, there's a role for that, but there's already a lot of people out there that are capable. If your company needs to extract business intelligence from, large pools of data, there's already people that you can find to help you with that. However, what companies aren't finding are individuals who have domain expertise. And in your case, it would be the growth hacking, the digital marketing, the data analytics side when it comes to marketing, and understands generative AI. So you find yourself as you're studying this to be in a very unique position. Is my internet working okay, guys? Am I lagging at all? No? Am I? I hope you guys can hear me. Okay, great. Sorry, I just did a speed test, and anytime you go live, of course, that's when the internet starts to act wonky. So, as I mentioned, we spend all day, every day teaching non-technical business professionals how to use generative AI in their day to day. And for me, I think if you've been on a call with me before, you've probably heard me share some of these concepts with you. But if you haven't, I think it's important that you understand kind of the way that we look at things. And one of those is when this is a huge opportunity, but the way that I see it, you've already done the hard part. And what I mean by that is that the years of experience that you've accumulated in your role, performing as a growth hacker, as a digital marketer, as a marketing lead, that's so much harder than anything that you'll do with generative AI. So I want you to be encouraged and not intimidated by the use of these tools. If I would imagine that a lot of you have probably already worked with, and the learning curve isn't that big of a deal for the tools. And what's important is that if you just knew the tools, but you didn't really have the business experience, you'd go into a business and you say, okay, guys, where do you need me? And they go, I don't know, you're the expert, right? But if you have the business experience and you get introduced to a tool, it's very easy for you to go, oh, this tool will help here. Oh, we can use that tool here. And that's actually a much more accelerated adoption environment than the other way around, bringing in that tool expert who doesn't know anything about your role. Another thing that we like to introduce to AI enthusiasts is this concept of thinking in AI. And it stems from some research that was done with Harvard and BCG, Boston Consulting Group, back in September of last year. And it's a study some of you may already be familiar with. In September of last year, they took about 800 Boston Consulting Group consultants, about 10% of their workforce, and they wanted to study what is the actual impact of a user on generative AI on their role. So they took 400 of them. They said, hey, guys, just go to work, go do the thing. The other 400, they said, go to work, but hold on. We're going to give you access to ChatGPT 4.0. I guess 4.0 wasn't out then. We're going to give you access to ChatGPT and give you about 10 minutes of instruction. So not some, full day intensive. They just basically said, here's how it works. Use it in your, in the function of your job. And before they let everybody go, they measured the kind of a baseline on 18 different performance metrics. How did these individuals perform? Now, at the end of the 12-week experiment, surprise, surprise, those who were, enabled with ChatGPT outperformed those who weren't using it. They outperformed them on every metric that was measured, and they outperformed them by a lot. Now, if you're already using the tool, you understand, hey, that's no surprise there. But what they didn't expect to see was the increase that it gave to the individuals who at the benchmark testing at the beginning of the experiment who had scored the lowest. Those individuals saw almost a 50% increase in their performance just simply from using ChatGPT in their role. Now, I think what that takeaway was that introducing this into your team or your company, it will raise every single person. Of course, the top performers got a boost, just not as much of one, but it will raise everybody in your organization. It will raise them up to the highest levels of performance. So it's not just about you learning how to do this. I want you to understand that you learning how to do this is great, and it certainly helps with your career advancement and more pay, promotion, all that type of thing. But if you're the individual who can bring this into the company and also lift everybody else up simply by being the one who they can go to and say, "Oh, Chris knows this stuff. Let's go ask Chris how to use this. Hey, Chris, what tool can we use for this?" You become invaluable to the organization way beyond what you're doing now. And it's just makes sense, right? If you bring more value to an environment, you're worth more. And in this case, not only are you bringing more value to your own performance, but by upskilling or participating in the upskilling of everybody else, you end up bringing value to the entire business. So I want you to think about that. But one of the things that they noticed in the behavior of these users was that the ones who were seamlessly using the tool, they would go from, having a meeting, and then there might be a meeting assistant there, and then they would take those notes and they would run them through ChatGPT. It was this environment of them not necessarily going, "Oh, hold on, let me use AI for this." They were thinking in AI. Every activity, every dynamic and situation that they encountered in the workday, they asked themselves, "Oh, how can I use AI for this?" Right? And there's a great book that just came out. I'm in Austin, Texas, and it's a friend of mine who lives here. Jeff Woods released a book called AI Driven Leader. There's a lot of tactical stuff out there. You can go to YouTube, you can go to TikTok and watch a ton of videos and learn how to, do some clever tricks. However, if you find yourself more in the role of the expectation of your deliverable is more strategic than tactical, this would be a fantastic book for you. And the way that Jeff talks about this concept of thinking in AI in his book is he suggests that you go from asking, "How can I?" to "How can AI?" Right? And if you start to help put a sticky note on your computer so that you just remind yourself to think about that, it will become second nature for you to begin to, rather than going, "Oh my gosh, how do I need, a bunch of ideas. How do I solve this problem?" Whatever you encounter, okay, this is awesome. We've got a lot of, I'm looking at the results here. A lot of folks who are already comfortable using the tools. And, in the comments, if you don't mind, if there's some specific tools that you're using in your role in a growth environment, I'd love to know what those are. We have a few that we recommend, but I'm always open to learning more. So this concept of thinking in AI, I would imagine if at threes and fours, a lot of you are probably already doing that. You may not realize that's what it's called or that's what you're doing. So those would be a couple of key concepts that I would suggest you keep in mind as you're on your AI journey. If there are any specific use cases that you guys want to talk about, and let's see here. We got here. Okay, you're good. Let's see here. Nazarene says using ChatGPT 4.0 as a first preference, of course, helps with first ideation for copy or internal business operational thinking. You must have a human to interrogate the thinking. Yes. So we call that, and many others do as well, we call that human in the loop. And I would consider that best practice for where we are with the technology today. There are some cases certainly where the output from the models from ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you're using, that raw output is called synthetic output. And there's certainly plenty of opportunities in your day-to-day where the synthetic output is fine, right? However, if it's customer facing, if it's internal communications for your team, if it's perhaps messaging to investors, whatever the case might be, it's important that that it has an output that is indiscernible from human, right? And that for us in our own content creation in our business, that was the mandate really for our content team was if we're going to leverage generative AI to produce content, It has to be human like. Now, it's okay if somebody says, is that AI? Like, if it gets them questioning, that's fine. But it was a non-starter for us if we were going to be putting things out there where it was obvious that it was chat GPT generated, right? And for those of you who are at threes and fours, I would imagine that you're starting to develop a palate or a sense of, wait a minute, that's not human. Like, that's obviously somebody copied and pasted. That is, if you're going to do that, I would lean into it. And what I mean by that is I would actually, advertise, hey, and by the way, this is AI generated content. But I wouldn't attempt to like fool your audience with strictly AI generated stuff. So Nazarene's comment of having that human involved is exactly how we operate. If there's even with the work that we've done over the past 6 months of calibrating our prompts and using tool stacks and all that stuff to get that human like output before it gets shipped, we still have an individual who reviews it and says, "Yep, this is good." Let's see here. We've got Claude AI. We've got some great comments here. Terheel says ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Jarvis. That's a fantastic stack there. Um, you must be a long time user if you're still calling it Jarvis, because I know at one point it was Jarvis and now they're calling it Jasper, but that's awesome. Nazarene says Claude is a great tool, provides, yes. Um, and here's the good news about it. There's not a right or wrong tool. One of the things we work with a lot of business professionals who are on the AI journey. They're upskilling themselves or their companies are sending them through our certification programs. And one of the questions we get commonly is there's so many tools out there. How do I know which ones to use? And what I would suggest is that if you find something that's working for you to satisfy a certain category, whether that's content creation, whether that's video avatars, whether that's image generations for your ad creative, whatever, if you find something that's working for you, it's not necessary that you go out there and continue to feel like there's this FOMO about you're missing out on the best tool. What I would suggest is that you plug into a community. There's plenty of communities out there. In the Growth Hackers environment, we've got one for our students. But go to a place where collectively people are doing their due diligence on the tools so that you're not a solo operator out there trying to go through a couple hundred tools a week, because there's so many tools that are being released every single week. I've found that was an unanticipated enhancement to our own program. Is that, at first when we launched this in 2023, I was the guy. I had to go do all the research. I had to. It was a race that I wasn't winning. But as we started to get more enthusiasts involved in the ecosystem, it started taking the pressure off me, and I started to learn more from those others. So if you're not plugged into a community, I would highly recommend that you do that, so that you can go and say, "Hey, what tool are you guys using for this?" Or, "Here's our situation. What tool are you using?" So that you're not out there trying to watch all the YouTube videos and read all the updates and all those sorts of things. So some best practice would be, look, find a tool stack that works for you and stick to that. If it's not satisfying the requirements, then at that point, perhaps go out and do a search. But um, trying to stay on top of this stuff would be a full-time job in itself. As a matter of fact, there are people out there like Matt Wolf from Future Tools. It's his full-time job, and that's all he does. He creates content about new tools, new updates, new functionality. It's being released by all different categories of these tools. Let's take a look. We've got a couple more comments here. I hear a lot of people. I'm not a creative, I guess you'd say. I'm much more of the operator of the business. But most of the creatives that I work with, they tell me that Claude, that's their preference when it comes to particularly like sales copy, marketing copy, that sort of thing. We're able to now. I want to address that. Believe it or not, you can go out there and you can talk to people and they can say, "Oh, I tried ChatGPT, it didn't work." Now, I don't know what that means. It didn't work, but I do. I mean, what they mean is that I used it. I had an intended outcome from my usage of it, and that outcome was not satisfied. And they assume that the models, oh, they're not that good. Oh, AI is not that good. My position on it is that very much the old computer programming maxim, garbage in, garbage out. If you're not getting the ideal output from the model, whether it's Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, we're going to go upstream and we're going to look at did you provide the ideal input, the ideal prompt, the ideal instructions? And if you haven't really spent a lot of time understanding what, I'm not going to say proper prompting is, but we call it prompt intelligence internally. And it's perhaps you've heard the term prompt engineering. Uh, that sounds a little intimidating, and I have to do it this way, or else it'll, whatever. That's not the way we look at it. We look at understanding prompting to the point to where you can encounter a situation in business and go, okay, how do I get an answer from them? How do I use the models as a thought partner to get that answer? Okay, I need to ask it this, right. And we actually teach a kind of an iterative framework. Our company is called Chief AI Officer. The framework is CAIO, and it stands for command, which is your initial instructions. If once you hit generate, the next step would be the A, assess. If you're not getting the ideal output from that, it's time for the I, the iterate. Go back and evaluate the input that you gave it. Because trust me, I'm doing some presentations right now for our own community, and I did research in Perplexity just this week. How many parameters was ChatGPT 4.0 trained on? It said 1 trillion parameters. So okay, well, what does that equate to in books? And if the average book is whatever, over 1 billion books, right? So information is in there, and that's the same for Claude and Gemini and Copilot and all those things. The information is in there, but if you're not satisfied with what you're getting from them, it's not the models, it's the questions, it's the input that you're providing to it. So I would suggest we start there. Nazarene says Claude is great. Most obvious for now is using it to assist during tasks that I deliver. Great. Gemini feels a bit slow. I'm not a big fan of Gemini. Now, here's the thing. We test tools regularly. We've got, as I mentioned, we've got an entire community, and some of them are very enthusiastic about trying to break the algos on all these tools, right? Trying to get them to do things that they're not supposed to, find out what the edges are for use. And I'm not talking about malicious stuff. It's just they're wanting to make sure that they are that they fully understand the capabilities and limitations of any of these tools. And you may try something like, for instance, I'm a big fan of HeyGen. If anybody's using HeyGen for their video avatars, I'm in a studio right now, and we're in the process of becoming one of the first HeyGen authorized video avatar studios, meaning that we've done so many creative things with that particular tool that we're working with HeyGen to be recognized as, hey, if you're looking to have the best training data to create these avatars using HeyGen, go to this studio, use the setup that they've got. We're doing all kinds of things that aren't necessarily traditional. You think, oh, I'm going to do my avatar, I'm going to stand in front of the camera and be a talking head. We're doing all kinds of things. The driving and conversation. Anyway. I use the tool a lot. I hadn't been in the back end for a couple of weeks, and I went in and it was different. They had added a whole lot more functionality, a whole lot more bandwidth for your usage. So if you have used a tool and you're like, I didn't really like it, understand that these tools are improving daily. I mean, technically, with every single use, these tools are improving. So if you've tried something in the past and wrote it off as no good, or doesn't meet your needs, keep it on the list and regularly, I don't know, once a month, once a week, whatever your frequency is, go and try the tool again, because as I'm telling you, they get updated regularly. But I'm with you, Nazarene. I'm not a big fan of Gemini. I'm a big fan of finding a stack that works and just getting good at that stack. We're all busy. I don't have the time to bounce around. I've got professional level membership or subscriptions to all of them. However, the only thing that I do with the other ones outside of ChatGPT for my personal use is go in, like I just suggested, and once a month, oh yeah, let me try Claude. Let's see if they've got artifacts now, or whatever the new functionality is. John says we're evaluating how AI will transition and shift our business internally and our product offering capabilities. Yeah. So I saw a post yesterday, and I thought it was pretty clever. And it was kind of the 3 phases of AI usage. The first one was your own. How can I use these tools to increase my own productivity, right? Once that has been achieved, once you've kind of stabilized on the usage of it in your own role, the ascension would be step two. Phase two would be, um, how do we use it in our business, in our own, how do we operationalize generative AI in our own business? Now, once that's done, step three would be, now how do we use this in the fulfillment of our product for our clients, right? That level of the interaction. So, um, and it looks like John is already figuring that out. We don't have the internal resources as of yet that would allow us to meet our goals organically. Would it be good to enlist a contractor to help us satisfy our key objectives until, of course, yeah. Now, here's the challenge. Good luck finding the contractor. Um, we do a 3-day challenge once a month where we kind of run our community through three things. On day one, we talk about optimize, and we run it through a case study of a tool stack for a very universal business activity, and that is preparing for and presenting at a meeting, a Zoom meeting. So we run them through, okay, here's the topic. You're going to use Perplexity. You're going to take it from Perplexity. You're going to go into Gamma. If anybody's familiar with Gamma, you're going to create the presentation. Now, when it's time for the Zoom, you're presenting your Gamma, but you need to have, for us, the meeting assistant that we prefer is Fathom, right? So we kind of ran new users through this stack. Great. Now you've got your Fathom output. You take that transcript from Fathom, you bring it into ChatGPT, and we run them through uh, basically an AI-powered process that enhances what they are doing on a regular basis. On day two, we talk about strategize. Okay, great. We showed you what that looks like, an AI-powered process, but here's the exact thing that we do for you to figure out, if in my own business, where else can I do this? Okay, so to identify those pilot projects, how to manage the pilot projects, how to score them, all that kind of thing. And on day three, today for us, it's the monetize topic. And we're sharing a lot of research with the community, our own and the research of others, about what does the marketplace look like? What is the demand? What are the opportunities for an AI-enabled individual? And what we're seeing is that, of course, leadership is excited about the promise of introducing this into their business, and so excited that they recognize that an individual who, I mean, think about it. Somebody shows up to, you've got a position on your team. You get a bunch of candidates. There's a couple of them that really stand out. One of them, and like, let's say all things being equal, they both went to the same school. They've got the same certifications, about the same amount of time in the career. You look at their portfolios, or you look at some of the results that they've gotten. Hey, this is great stuff. One of them has a certification in generative AI in their role. The other one doesn't. Not saying the Gen AI person is going to get it. However, if you are getting results, they're certainly going to be at the top of that list of candidates that you interview, right? Like, why wouldn't they? Businesses, business leaders understand this, and they're looking for those people. And because those people bring more value to the role. And if you bring more value, guess what? They pay you more, they promote you more often, all those sorts of things. And all of the executives surveyed, 80 something percent of them agreed with that. However, the challenge was them finding it. Now, I don't know what size organizations you work for. At the enterprise level, some research that we saw recently from Deloitte indicated that there was about a 50% gap from demand to supply. And now think about it. This is Deloitte. They're servicing, multinational corporations, big businesses who have big budgets to throw at this. At any price, though, they can't find the talent. Now, if you're operating in mid-market or below, I would suggest that it was way more than 50%. It's probably closer to a 500% skills gap between the demand for it and the number of people who are out there who can actually come in and deliver. So this is, for all of you, this is a huge opportunity. I mean, at a minimum, I would suggest that it was, and not to be doom and gloom, but I would suggest that it's an act of self-preservation for your own career to learn this stuff. The saying, last year there was a lot of this, oh, AI is coming for your job kind of thing. And I think most of you may have heard it. The updated version of that is that AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows your job and knows AI. So just to make sure that you're not on the other side of that equation, I would suggest that this is something that you regularly pay attention to, set aside some time to attend things like this. You don't even have to, if you invest in your career, obviously people pay attention to what they pay for. I would suggest that's a great next step for you. However, it doesn't need to be an expensive pursuit. There's a lot of content that's being created by some fantastic content creators and experts out there on every platform that I'm on, right? Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Do something, right? And here's what I would suggest. Don't pay attention to all the data science and machine learning side of things. It's not going to, maybe later. But if we go back to that phase one, how do I use it in my own role to become more creative, more productive? Start there. So I would be spending time finding the tools that help me be a better me in my role. And machine learning and data science is not that, not for growth hackers. Well, Chris, I do a lot of data analysis and blah, blah, blah. Fantastic. You don't need, I don't need to be a data scientist to use ChatGPT or Claude to be able to feed it data sets and just ask the right questions. Remember, we talked about ideal output is relative to the ideal input that you give it. If you know how to ask the questions from the CSV, from the survey results from the customers, whatever it is, you'll end up getting very actionable intel. And ask it questions. What am I not seeing here? What are 4 or 5 creative data points that would normally be overlooked, professional, but apply to what we're doing? That thinking and AI part. So I would say yes, John. I would find somebody, but as a condition of finding that individual, I would say to the consultant, and we want you to start training our people, right? Because that consultant, even if they, it's a culture fit and all that kind of stuff, supply and demand, they are in high demand. There is low supply. Therefore, they can charge a premium. It would be very expensive for you to not upskill your own staff and just rely on a consultant who could get honestly poached, the next time their contract was up for renewal. Let's see here. Got a few more comments here. Have you started using ChatGPT Canvas yet? A little. It's very cool, right? I see it, but I'm not creating a lot of content. For me, my primary use at this point in our business's life cycle is more for strategic, using it as, again, to borrow from Jeff's book, AI Driven Leader. I'm the thought leader. It's the thought partner, right? So I'm using it more in that context, ChatGPT. Now we do have, a lot of our marketing team and that sort of stuff is using, our content team is using the canvases, but I'm not the expert on that, but would be happy to provide follow-up information. So let me think if there's some other kind of fundamental things that we've discovered that tend to be overlooked by other individuals. I guess we could talk about some of in the course that we have with Growth Hackers. We have a lot of fun. We look at all the different modalities that we can use AI, that we're actually using AI for. Nazarene says, yep, use Canvas. We really need to see how it can be a thought partner. As you say, Chris, I think that I can talk directly to sections or ideas to tighten an output. Yep, 100%. Nazarene is thinking in AI. This is awesome. So let me think about another concept that we talk about regularly. Oh, we talk about, in the course at least, we talk about a number of the tools. And I'll just share with you kind of our history with this, right? So in the fall of last year, I've got one investor. He was had a very successful exit with a e-commerce platform that most of you probably are familiar with. And he said, Chris, you got to do a podcast. I said, okay, all right. You're the investor. You're the smart one. I'll do the podcast. I've enjoyed it. We just released episode 41 this week, so we've been consistent with it. We've had some fantastic conversations and opportunities to learn from experts. The podcast is called Using AI at Work. And I thought, for me, what was very helpful is when I got to hear how other people were using it and go, oh, I could do that, right? I hadn't made the connections of how to think in AI at that time. And I realized a lot of other people at all different levels, same experience. They haven't become what they called in that experiment with BCG. They called those people cyborgs. They hadn't reached that level. So I started doing the interviews, but I said, man, look, if I'm going to invest my time and the generous gift of somebody else's time to sit with me, have an authentic conversation, and let me ask them some really real questions like, well, what do you guys do? How do you do that? Right? Like there's no fluff in this. I said, I want to make sure that it's getting some distribution, that I can leverage this for brand awareness, and just indicating to others that like this is a resource for you to use in your learning curve when it comes to Gen AI. Um, so I tasked my content team. I said, listen, figure out what tools we need to use to get as many content pieces um, from this podcast as possible. Again, with one condition: you cannot publish anything that feels, smells, tastes synthetic. It has to be indiscernible from me writing it, me standing in front of the camera, me recording the audio clip, whatever it was. And um, after about, we got good quickly, but it took that final bit took us about 6 months to get there. And the stack that we use for this are, um, it depends. So we were testing a lot of audiograms initially as one of our modalities, and we used 11 labs. Most of you, if you're using the tools, you're probably familiar with 11 labs at this point, combined with a tool called Headliner.app. And Headliner, we take the 11, and this is all automated. That was another condition. I don't need to spend, I don't want my team spending 15 hours a week creating these pieces with the tools. Not only will we use the tools, but it needs to be as automated as possible. So the end result for us is that with each podcast, which is an authentic conversation, it's a genuine interaction between two humans that are, both passionate about a subject. Once that episode is done, I don't touch it, and within 15 minutes, we have roughly about 100 pieces of content that are multimodal, meaning some are video using HeyGen, some are audio clips, the audiograms using 11 Labs, some are text run through a series of different prompts that provide this one specific to, some of the better content creators out there on Twitter. This one's specific to what would be expected on a LinkedIn newsletter article, all those types of things. And within about 15 minutes, we're getting all of those pieces now automated. Now we have, there was a comment earlier from Nazarene about having a human involved in the process. We do. There's certain points in our process where the human does step in and says, okay, yep, that's ready to ship, right? And then from there, we actually use Vista Social, which automates all of our posting. Now, I'm on LinkedIn if you wanted an example or a demonstration of what our content looks like. I'm going to say some of it is actually human, like the human did the thing. Me, I did the thing. And I invite you to play a little Where's Waldo on this stuff and figure out which of these pieces did Chris do and which of these pieces are AI generated. I've given you the secret, that it's out there. But routinely, and I have friends who are very successful in business and they've been paying attention to this stuff and they know me, very well. And they're like, "Oh man, great post." I have no idea which post they're talking about, right? Like, because we've done such a good job. So it is possible. And this goes back to people saying, "Oh, I tried Chat GPT, it didn't work," right? This is the same thing. If we would have stopped and just run the stuff through the tools and posted it, it wouldn't have, I wouldn't be fooling my own friends, right? And we're not trying to fool people. I mean, we're not certainly not trying to game the algorithm, but even LinkedIn recognizes that this is quality content, does not identify it as synthetic content, and serves it to, you know, audiences that are third tier plus out from my connections. And that wouldn't be happening if it would be suppressed if it was obviously synthetic. So same thing with your clients, with your prospects, with any marketing that you're doing. If they smell that, like, oh, this person didn't even care enough to, it's, because it's not authentic. They just copied and pasted. There's a lot more work to it. And those of you who are using the tools know that there's a lot more work to it than just copy and paste. But the perception is, oh, this is lazy, right? Why would I pay attention to this? Oh, this is just computer generated. You that if you're using generative AI and that's the output that you're shipping to the marketplace, you might as well not, because as the audiences become more aware, their palates become more refined when it comes to distinguishing authentic from synthetic. It's going to be very easy for them to recognize it, and just it'll be noise, not signal, if you're familiar with that concept. Um, Nazarene, if you have another question, you can either unmute or you can post for sure. This goes for any of you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Um, so,
Thank you so much for that, Chris. Such a
sure.
great conversation.
Thank you.
And to the team Growth Hackers, I'm enjoying it a lot because I run a communications business in South Africa. And of course, the demand came from customers. The first thing they asked was, "We want to use AI in our business." And you have to ask them, what do you want to
Yeah.
use and why? But the expectation is for us to obviously know the tools. You know, we're almost business optimization technologists at this point. We're not marketers anymore.
Yeah.
That's what we've become. So I think my thought process is going to now, we know WhatsApp is huge on the African continent and in a lot of other regions. And I'm trying to figure out how Meta AI capability can be fused into the conversational chatbot experience and what might that look like. So as you said, the low code, no code approach for us marketers is where we want to be because we're not all data scientists and coders. Although for the first time the other day, I used ChatGPT to write a script for app script
Yeah.
on Google Forms, which I was so thrilled with myself. I felt
Yeah.
like I built Facebook. So at that point, it was an award-winning moment. But the Meta AI fused into WhatsApp is where I'm trying to figure out what would that build or the backend look like, and how can we start advising clients as quickly as possible. Thanks, man. What a great convo.
Thank you. So here's how I would approach that. Who, not how. It's much more important. I would say that there's more value from you being someone who can architect what needs to occur as compared to being the person who can build it. What we tend to do is geo arbitrage that talent. For instance, we've got a fantastic automations team that's distributed outside of the US. They are, you know, I'm using US dollars to pay local currency for a talent that if I were to pay for that same equivalent in the US would be, we wouldn't be able to do as much of it. So what I would suggest, unless you're kind of, wired to be the person who really wants to know what's going on under the hood of the car, it's the architecture of the solution is where you would be able to contribute more value, and then take that and then find the resource who can build the automation, who's already doing those sorts of things. Because this kind of goes back to that when I mentioned earlier in the conversation about you've done the hard part, right? If I were to go find perhaps one of our automations guys from Pakistan, he's a whiz, fantastic. But if I were to say, hey, I need this built, and kind of just gave him a very high level of what it was, he'd do the best that he could, but he doesn't understand our business processes enough to know exactly how to build a solution that was the most elegant solution, right? So if you are clear on this goes back to that prompt intelligence concept as well. If you're clear on providing the input, and the input in this case would be the instructions for what you're looking to do, and you can say, I know that this needs to go from here to here. At that point, I need something else to occur. I don't know what that is. You're the automations guy, or I know that I need to be able to take input from WhatsApp, process that input through a proprietary tool that we use, or use that to go to HeyGen to create a personalized video response to that and feed it back into WhatsApp. If you know that's what you want to have happen, man, that'd be great. If every time they reach out, they get a personalized video response from our founder or our spokesperson or whatever. Take that and give that to the who, right, in that equation, the who, not how. Yeah. So Nazarene's got a good point here. That's if I know it in theory, I can at least explain it better to sell clients. So here's what I can tell you. A confused mind always says no. And you may think that you're doing the client a service by explaining it to them at that level of granularity or detail. And I can tell you that if they're not ready for that answer, it's easier for them to go, okay, we'll think about it, or that's not for us. This applies to all of us. If it's just safer sometimes for your client to say, because listen, with AI, they're going to be concerned about governance and data privacy and what is our proprietary information going to be used in the models? They've got those concerns, and if they don't understand what you're explaining to them, That's what they're going to be thinking: risk, 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 risk. So, we tend to focus on the outcome. They have questions about specifics, I'm happy to either answer those myself or say, hey, you know what? Let me get our guy. Can you get on the phone in 15 minutes? I'll get our team to the expert on that part. Um, I I prefer to sit in that architect's role. And the reason I call it the architect is if you think about what an architect does, they know down to the detail what millimeter screw will be used on a faceplate for a light switch. They know all of these things. But if you go out to the job site on a Saturday, the architect's not there, right? So look at yourself, ideally, as the architect who understands kind of what tools need to be used, but you're not necessarily the builder or the tradesperson who's going to go out there and turn the wrench kind of thing. So, um, and Pierre says explaining simply is an essential part of entrepreneurship. Yes. So here's what I would suggest, Nazarene. Next time you want to do this, use the model as a thought partner. And that this is prompt intelligence. I need to explain to a client how we're going to use these tools to solve this issue. A lot of times, all of us are familiar with that concept of explain it like I'm five. ChatGPT knows how to explain it like you're five, right? I do ELI 5 all the time for my own self, right? But if you can do that with clients and then maybe say, okay, and just as a backup, if the client does want details, how could I explain this in a way that would be very easy for a non-technical, decision maker at our client company to be able to understand what we're doing? That who not how also applies to the generative AI, the LLMs. Let it be the who, right? That has the answers for you, and you are the one who is thinking an AI, going, okay, I know that my client's probably going to ask these questions, rather than me get caught on the spot and have to be like, right? Let me go ahead and prepare in advance and have those. It takes you 5 to 15 minutes, right? So it's not like it's a huge lift. And if it's an important enough conversation, it's certainly worth that extra 5 to 15 minutes for you to, when they show up to the meeting. And again, not to harp on Jeff's book again, but it's making waves for sure at the executive level. But one of the things that they talk about regularly is if you're preparing for an executive meeting or a board meeting or anything like that, take the slide deck that's going to be presented, define who the characters are that are going to be sitting at that table, and ask the models, where are we going to find friction with this presentation presented to this audience of individuals? Board member A is this way. Here's some information from them. And look, what I'd go to Perplexity, or you can go to LinkedIn and you can download somebody's, profile information as a PDF. You use all of that as seed material for that context, and have GPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever tool you're using be that, oh, this personality, this board member A, when you get to slide 14, they have a tendency, it looks like they're, engineering background. They might get into the weeds on this. I would simplify that slide so that you don't get stuck, in a loop of answering all of these granular questions, for this one board member. That would be one suggestion here. It says we're having oh, great. Looks like you guys have an AMA next week, which would be
Yeah.
awesome.
So next Tuesday, we're going to be interviewing Darcy Lawrence. He's the founder of Attraction. It is an AI tool that's connecting influencers with the automotive industry. So how an AMA works, you can register to it, submit a question, and then we're going to interview him with the best questions sent from our community and also take questions live. So if you want to learn a little bit about what's the entrepreneurial journey that he went through to launch and to scale his AI products, and also a little bit about influencer marketing, he's in the business. So if you have questions about how to improve your influencer strategies, and also about how to use AI at work, he's also very skilled at that. So if you want to register to that for our next event, it's going to be Tuesday. And also, Chris can take final questions, but I just wanted to leave you guys with a thought that this is going to be a recurring session. We're going to be meeting every other Wednesday. You can attend all meetings or just a few of them. But the idea is that we're going to be building on and actually bringing a little bit of how we're using in our own challenges to discuss in the future calls. So if there's something that you'd like to see in the future session, you can let me know or write to me at community@growthhackers.com. And also post in the community. We do have in the community, there is the event the event post. You can post comments in there to tell us what you want to see in future sessions, and we're going to try to bring those. So it's going to be every other week on Wednesday.
Great. Hey, guys, I just posted, it's a long shot, but if you're in the Austin area or you have any of your coworkers or teammates or individuals who are interested in AI and they're in Austin, once a month we do an AI founders meetup. It's kind of like a happy hour with kind of generative AI enthusiasts. I'm one of the hosts. Kurt Malley is another host. Kurt's with Black Box Social Media. And then Rachel Woods, who is the founder of AI Exchange, if any of you are familiar with that. We just RSVP. We'd love to have you join us. Or please share that with anybody who's in Austin. I'm relatively relocated once again back to Austin and looking to build the network here for sure. Now, I do want to address, Luis says everyone is using AI tools for marketing. What would make the difference in the outcome? Practice for sure, using the tools regularly, experimenting with the tools. I would find a few creators, content creators who are using tools. Like, for instance, we use a lot of video avatars. If you go and look at the sales page for my training that I've done with Growth Hackers, I mean, we let you know at the beginning of that video, but that was, 3-4 months ago. It's actually gotten better than that now. But that's a tool that we use a lot. And I'm regularly seeing how other people are explaining how they're using HeyGen. I don't use Synthesia. I don't find it find it super synthetic. And we've got a great relationship with the folks at HeyGen. But I would find, and that could be a YouTube situation where you just go to YouTube and say, best use of HeyGen or whatever. And those are great. But what I would suggest is that as you turn into a cyborg environment, right? You'll be walking the dog and you'll be like, oh, I wonder if I could do this. Oh, like, for example, this is my buddy's studio, Adam Lyons. And he was a crisis PR guy in the UK for a long time. And he said there's this classic BBC interview shot, right? Where the camera is kind of here, but the subject is here. But you can obviously see that they're being interviewed. I thought, oh, I wonder if we can do that with HeyGen. Yep, you can. And that's not what other people are doing, right? Other people are just standing in front of it and kind of, following the HeyGen instructions, which don't tell you to tell you, like, don't be very animated. We're like, no, we try to break it, right? We do whatever we can. So do that same thing. Any idea you've got to go, I wonder if the tool can do this, and try it out. That would be one way to do it. We've got a couple of questions. Yep, that's right. There is a 10% off coupon code for our course. And Evelyn, yeah, if you have a question, please. Oh, it looks like you're having a hard time connecting. So awesome. I hope that you guys got some value from this. Next time I won't even be on time. I'll be early, I promise. And we'll be able to get those extra few minutes. But again, that link is in there. If you do know somebody in Austin who's into AI, they're more than welcome to come join us. There's no fee at all. And they'll be meeting. We've got, I think, the founder of Secta.ai, which is the AI headshot company. Fantastic work that they do. We use their stuff. They're going to be there. We've invited the founders of Cast Magic. If you're familiar with their tool, it's a great AI-powered broad content creation tool that we use. So it'd be a lot of fun. Otherwise, you guys can find me on LinkedIn. Chris Daigle is my name. DMs are probably the best way to get me. Or if you join the course, I'm in the community that we have, especially for our students in there. And I'm happy to answer any questions at all, but go experiment.
Thank you so much.
See you guys in 2 weeks.
Hopefully I'll see you on Tuesday or on our next session on Wednesday. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.